Robin Williams has been on our hearts and minds all this week. He touched all of us, or all those multiple of characters, and he's the one who gave more to the world, the phrase Carpe Diem, in that incredible movie, The Dead Poets Society. And as many of you know, I decided to change the sermon this week in light of the events around his death. And so the title today is When Carpe Diem is Beyond Our Grasp. I suspect we all have our favorite Robin Williams scenes, whether it's in Miss Doubtfire, Good Will Hunting, Good Morning Vietnam, Aladdin, Flubber, any number of these, or his late night shows. Some of you were probably at the 1982 Gator Growl. Anybody at that? Oh, really? Okay. Yeah. Your ears are still singed, I think. Yeah. My favorite one was the Dead Poets Society, which I think it was in 1989. Just sort of overwhelmed me in such positive ways. I'll never forget that scene where he's leaving the classroom for the last time, and the young boys stand on the desk and quote Walt Whitman's poetry about Lincoln, "Oh, Captain, my Captain," because he'd made such an impact on their lives. And also this scene from the movie where he's just had the first day of class of English literature and poetry, and he has one of these boys in this very expensive private school who they're used to doing exactly what they're supposed to do, read the introduction to poetry, which is dry and rigid, and he reads it, and then Robin Williams says to them, "Tear out that page," which shocked them. He said, "No, tear it out. Tear out the whole chapter." And tells all the boys, tear out the whole chapter. And after a lot of angst, they do it. And then he says, here's what really poetry is about. And we got a minute and 15 minutes clip. Maybe you've seen it recently, but I wanted to show a minute and 15 seconds clip. Let's watch this from that part. And that's our assignment for this week. What will your verse be? Sun Life, what will your verse be this year? What will your life verse be? We talked about this as staff this week, and different ones of us shared. I thought, what is my life verse? And I'm sure I'll rephrase it, but I feel like my life verse is I try to help people see that a God of infinite love. What is your life verse? What will it be? What will it be for Trinity this year and the future? As I planned, I thought I would go with that direction and push out the piece about what's your life verse. And then I just knew I needed to change and talk about depression and suicide with that so much on our minds. How could this happen? Why someone so funny, so gifted at making others laugh, had these going on in his own life. So Thursday morning, I sent out an email, mass email to all those on my daily scripture email list. And I got back an overwhelming number of responses. I wasn't sure how many would respond, but I got back over 100 responses, and I read each one of them, and I tried to respond to each one because it was a sacred trust, and you entrusted me with some really sacred material. And I just appreciate your sharing your thoughts and stories. Many use the phrase, feel free to share. We need to break the stigma and the silence around mental illness. Many were powerful stories of a family member who committed suicide, of depression, of being the caregiver for one who lives in depression and the challenges of that. Someone I see most every Sunday, I didn't know this, but that a few years ago, their only child committed suicide. I didn't know that. Another person I've known here for all the 20 years that Jan and I have been here, I didn't know until I asked, and they responded that at the age of 5, they witnessed their own father take his life. So I read each one with this sense of sacredness about this new and deepening bond between pastor and parishioner. And I want to share with you what I've learned, and I've learned a lot from you, and here's what I'd like to share. Number one, the number one response of everybody who responded, most everybody said, make sure you let people know that depression is very, very, very common. Lots of people have periods of depression. And depression is common in children, youth, and adults. 1 in 3 will experience anxiety. 1 in 5 will experience a mood disorder like depression. All of us are affected directly or indirectly. We've either had it or we've known somebody who's had it. And many more of us than I realized know or will know or have known or a family member who's committed suicide. And more aware of soldiers with post-traumatic stress syndrome and depression and suicide. It shouldn't surprise us that in the church, but yet in the church we've come to want to put on happy faces. And even I, as I greeted people this morning, I keep forgetting to say, how are you, with the idea that they're going to say, I'm doing great. We do that to each other, don't we? And yet in our scriptures are full of people being honest about how they're really feeling. In fact, half of the Psalms are lamentations. Those are those crying out to God. And our psalm for today, 69 verses 1 through 4, is a cry of somebody who's depressed. And David was okay about that, and so was the community of faith that embraced the Psalms, and so ought to we to be, that it's a part of human existence. So let me share with you Psalm 69. Save me. And let me ask you if you've ever felt this way. Save me, God, because the waters have reached my neck. I've sunk into deep mud, but my feet can't touch the bottom. I've entered deep water. The flood has swept me up. I'm tired of crying. My throat is hoarse. My eyes are exhausted with waiting for my God. More numerous than the hairs on my head are those who hate me for no reason. My treacherous enemies, those who would destroy me, are countless. Must I now give back what I didn't steal in the first place? And you can find that throughout lots of the Psalms. So it's there. And like I say, many of us have known that. My prayer and my hope is that by our talking about depression openly here and in the future, today, by your sharing with me and my sharing with you, we can remove some of the barriers, some of the stigma, some of the shame, and some of the hesitancy and some of the fear. So the first thing I'm saying to you is very common. You're not alone. Lots of us have had it. I remember a period in my life where I had these severe panic attacks. I just didn't know quite what to do. I felt like the psalm. But as one doctor said, it's common, it's treatable, and it doesn't need to last a lifelong time. Get the help you need. Number two, sometimes the depression is so intense it leads to suicide. Robin Williams is one of 39,000 Americans who will take their life this year. 39,000 Americans who will end their life this year. I saw some statistic that men over 75 years old are particularly vulnerable. You wouldn't think that. It's interesting. Most of us know somebody, as I say, who've committed suicide or a family member. And I shared that. Here's a telling story. Jay Susky, who many of you remember, Jay was on our staff. She posted this on Facebook, so I know she's fine with it to be shared. She shared with me that it's okay. She was on staff for many years. Her parents, Margaret and Bob Jones, were very, very, very active here. She says this: my mother lost a brother to suicide, and in those days, in the 1930s, it was a secret, not to be announced, discussed, or sympathized with. It was a sin, a crime, a stigma. It was hush-hush all my life, and it was not until I was in my 30s working at the Alachua County Crisis Center with suicides did I learn how my uncle actually died. She says this: it's time to stop the silence regarding suicide and depression. One of our congregation who gave me permission to share the suicide note their child wrote, which didn't eventually happen, but it was a suicide note of tremendous pathos. At the end was this P.S. I would appreciate if anyone could support NAMI, National Association for Mentally Ill, or other groups who help reduce the pain, the stigma, and isolation. Someday people like me will be treated and viewed similar to diabetes. That would be a good thing. And listen to this, very important. Our medical people here at Trinity wrote this: mental illness, depression, anxiety disorder, panic disorder have a chemical basis. Serotonin or dopamine in specific areas of the brain control these processes, and disruption in their brain chemical regulators are the basis for expressions like depression. It has to do with chemical imbalance in one's brain. Depression is nothing to be ashamed of. Just like you wouldn't be ashamed of heart disease or diabetes or cancer or polio or smallpox. There's no shame. It's an illness. Which leads me to this. Suicide is not a sin. It's the result of an illness. There's an old myth from early religious stages that if you commit suicide, you'll go to hell. And that's, I don't know where that came from. It's a horribly indicting sort of thing. That's not what I believe. I don't think that's what the majority of Christians believe. Suicide is probably, strongly probably not a choice one makes. Not a choice one makes. When someone dies to suicide, it's important to remember, and here I'm paraphrasing someone in the paper this week, Lily Garcia. I think she's right on target. Depression took Joe or Sue or Sally the way cancer takes some people from us. There are no bad guys in this, no villains. He or she didn't do this to us. His sickness did this. His sickness took him away. Listen to this. Once you understand that, it doesn't take away the pain, but it takes away the anger. Because he or she didn't do it to us. As the post that Jay Suski put on her website or her post, she said it's like this. It's like a room engulfed in flames. You can't breathe. All you can do is jump out of the burning building. You're not jumping to your death. You're jumping from the pain. So it's not somebody does it to somebody. I like the thing. Cancer did this. Depression did this. Or as someone said, how can we possibly understand what's going on inside someone who takes their own life? I don't believe it's a selfish thing they did to relieve their pain and punish those who are left. No. I tend to agree it wasn't so much their choice as it was the disease of depression that took them. Two personal stories. Again, people said I could share these. I grew up in a very conservative church where the formula, just pray about it, was supposed to cure all for everybody, for everything, including anxiety disorder. If that isn't working, your faith isn't strong enough, was the message. It's taken me so long as an adult to accept that this diagnosis is the same as being diagnosed with diabetes. I have to physically manage it. It's just being good enough, strong enough, faithful enough will not change the chemical composition of my brain. I want everyone to hear it's okay to say you need help, especially in the church. And then this second story. It's important for the person suffering to understand it's not their fault. It's not your fault. I know this firsthand because depression runs in my family. My grandmother and my mother had it, and my uncle committed suicide. I was always taught to brush things under the rug, to keep it secret. If you sought help, people will think you're crazy. Snap out of it. It's like living in a deep, dark hole, and it's hopeless. I was so embarrassed about my depression because I truly thought it was a character flaw, a weakness. I suffered for over 6 years until I got the courage to seek help when I was 30 years old. Even then, I paid cash because I didn't want anyone to know. Now, several years later, I still get a bit embarrassed, even though I know it's not my fault or a character flaw, yet it's still hard to shake the stigma. Let me suggest 7 or 8 things not to do, not to say to somebody who's depressed, or even somebody who expresses feelings. Number 1, don't say this. You look so good and have so much going for you. How could you possibly be depressed? Now, if you've said these things, don't feel terrible. We've all said these stupid things. Number 2, put on your big boy pants and toughen up. Has that ever helped anybody? Number 3, you think you've got it bad. Wait till you hear about my situation. Oh, take an antidepressant, get a happy pill, get over it. One of you wrote, and I thought this was really good. You see, there's not only a stigma about depression, but there's a stigma among some people about antidepressant medication. Or phrases like, you just need to see a shrink. I love this. My doctor explained medications in a very simple way. You act and have the same emotions people who without depression have, and then this dark cloud of depression comes and hangs over you, and the medication doesn't change you or change your mood. Rather, it blocks the dark cloud and allows you to be the person you truly are. It's kind of cool. And don't say this. Well, at least it's not a serious illness like cancer. Or, good grief, it's been 6 months since Joe died. Get over it. Nobody said that stupid thing. If you had more, here's one that, I don't know if people say this or people think they're thinking it. If you had more faith, this would just go away. It's a chemical thing in the brain. It has nothing to do with faith. And one person said, don't try to fix me. Don't try to fix somebody. And this insight, the need for others to fix you is not helpful at all. When all their good efforts don't work, they shy away from you and become uncomfortable. They'd ask you how you are each day, and you could tell they really wanted to hear that you're doing better, which really wasn't true. This in turn makes you not willing to share how you feel, and you begin to believe it's all your fault. You aren't trying hard enough, and you each become uncomfortable around each other. The problem here is they never ask you to share with them how they could best help. Now, what to do? What to do? This will seem the opposite of what I've just said, but listen to me. Be invasive and then be silent. Be invasive and then be silent. Someone shared that I was picking up my kids from Stepping Stone, and somebody saw that I would look like I was having challenges, and they said to me, looks like you've got a lot of things going on. Would you like a cup of coffee? And we went, had a cup of coffee, and that was incredibly helpful. Or another person who studied this a lot, if you sense anything, let your concern be your guide. Say something in love. Are you doing okay? How are you really? Learn to be kindly invasive. So now I listen more carefully for expressions of despair. And I've asked on more than one occasion if the person was feeling like hurting himself or herself. I think I've received honest answers and may have helped. One person shared recently with me that a group of youngish parents were lots of time together with their children and themselves, had no idea this one young man was dealing with difficult challenges. He eventually took his life. This person said, I'm going to learn to be more invasive, asking questions. Now, can we always have done something different? No. As I said, there's no bad guys in this. I'm just suggesting some things. Be invasive and then be silent. Listen, 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 listen. It's very hard work. Accept the person for where they are. Acceptance is a beautiful thing. Come alongside, just be with them. We often don't have to do anything or say anything. Ask. Ask, are there specific things I can do to be helpful, or do you just want me to sit quietly? Realize we have wonderful Stephen ministries here. Wonderful Stephen ministries here who've had a lot of training. They're not professional counselors, but they've had a lot of training that'll be incredibly helpful. Small groups can be really helpful. I keep hearing it so often about the Tuesday night women's group. I know the Tuesday morning group is huge. All these groups are really helpful. Your Sunday school classes. Realize it's nobody's fault. Don't blame the victim. Don't blame yourself. Someone shared this. My elderly mother was recently given a cane that is red and white, given to her by the low vision services. They told her people did not know when looking at her, because she wears glasses, that she was vision impaired, and the cane was a universal symbol to let people know that. And then she makes this great point. Unfortunately, there's no symbol, no red and white cane, letting other people know when people are depressed or suffering from mental illness. Two more things. We hope to get together with our mental health folks here, and there are many, and they're competent, they're great at Trinity, see if we can find some things that we can offer that might be helpful to Trinity and the community. And we pastors, our doors, our phones, our emails are always open. I want to end with a paraphrase of an important passage of Scripture, Lamentations chapter 3. Lamentations is in the English Bible follows the book of Jeremiah because traditionally we felt like it was written by Jeremiah, and it may well have been. It's an intricate poem. Poetry, you know, goes to the depths of our beings. It's all a lament. In the Hebrew Bible, it's interesting, it's near the end of the Bible. But this chapter 3 is known to us by its ending because it's the basis for the hymn, "Great is thy faithfulness, morning by morning new mercies I see." But what we don't always know is the first part, and I'm paraphrasing it because in the literal translations in the Scriptures, God is doing this to this person. God, you did this. God, you do this. God, you're this lion. God, you're this bear. And I think it was the author's way of saying, this is how I feel, God. So let me take you through that, if I may. Let's bring up Lamentations chapter 3. I feel like the world is against me. Nowhere to turn. Like I've been turned out into utter darkness. You see, the Bible is okay about sharing this stuff. And it's public. Bitterness and hardship are all I seem to know. I feel walled in, and I can't escape, weighed down with chains. It feels like prayers go nowhere, like no one hears me. You know, I noticed even in the interviews with Robin Williams by Diane Sawyer and others, talking about his addiction, you could just feel they wanted him to kind of figure out a way to get better. But this lamentation, it lets the person express what he's feeling. It feels like my prayers are going nowhere, like no one hears me. I'm blocked in by blocks of stone. It's like a bear is out there lying in wait, like a lion hiding ready to pounce. I'm being dragged from the path and mangled with no one to help. My heart is pierced with arrows. I've become, this is what none of us wants, all of us fear, become a laughing stock, hence the shame of all my people. I'm filled with bitter herbs, my teeth broken with gravel, trampled in the dust, with absolutely no peace. I have no hope. And yet, and this is the good news I want to leave you with, this I call to mind, and therefore I have hope. God's great love for me is real, and it does not go away. God's compassions never fail. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. And even though there may be a chemical imbalance going on in your brain that doesn't let you fully grasp that, it's true. It's true. It's the solid bedrock of our faith. Morning by morning, new mercies I see. And sometimes those mercies come through a church service, sometimes through Holy Communion, sometimes through an intimate moment with God when you're deeply connected and maybe have a new relationship with God. And sometimes, dear friends, they come through medications and the advancement of science, because we believe those are of God as well. Would you pray with me? I've asked Esther to sing a closing song that will kind of pull this together. But pray with me. God, I don't know what's going on in our hearts and minds, but I do, because people share with me. And I just know that you're with us. And I know that we are a community of faith that's loving and accepting and grace-filled. And I just pray that all who ever hear the name Trinity will know that it's a place to enter into and share, and that everybody might find a place, and that we might feel deeply connected to you. In the name of Christ our Lord, amen.